We've survived another week. Thank you for listening, downloading, and subscribing to the Black Man with a Gun Show.
Bye.
Hey, if you knew what that sound is, it probably got your motor running. Well, this week I want to get you to know a pro shooter and somebody who's doing it the way you want to do it. His name is Todd Jarrett. He's a close friend, and this is part 1 of 4. It's like an inside origin story, stuff that you'll never get on YouTube. It's a nice long interview. Get to know this guy. And then we're going to continue on for the next couple of weeks with stuff that you want to know about, like mindset and shooting tips and different firearm setups. But first, who this guy really is. Interview with Todd Jarrett. Talk about bulletproof vest. I got a question of the week for you. And Papa Cap gives a tip for marksmanship.
BlackManWithAGun.com. Ken Blanchard's Pro Gun Podcast.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Black Man with a Gun Reloaded. You can get your autographed copy from me directly by emailing me at blackmanwithagun@gmail.com. For only $20, Black Man with a Gun Reloaded is an autobiographical book about gun control, how I became a trainer, an activist, a speaker for the Second Amendment. This book has a glossary that will make you sharper. It belongs on the bookshelf of every gun owner. Black Man with a Gun Reloaded. Email me at blackmanwithagun@gmail.com today. It's also available on Amazon without the love.
My country tears of thee. We land of liberty of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride. From every mountainside, let freedom ring. Let freedom ring. Let freedom ring.
You know, one of the best things about my life is that I have had a chance to meet some really cool people over my 50 plus years. One of the guys that I met about 9 years ago is a professional shooter. Now, I know as a firearms person, you have had some dreams and desires to shoot fast, to be like John Wick almost, never miss. I know. You practice in front of the mirror, doing reloads and loads. You go to the range and you try your best to outdo your best time. I know. I see you on Instagram. Well, this week I want to encourage you. I want to encourage you to keep going, to keep practicing, to keep putting bullets down range. It takes millions of rounds to get proficient. Millions, I said. Not just a couple of boxes here and there. Millions. You're going to have to do a lot of repetitions. Magazine reloads and magazine changes. You got to have your malfunction drills down to a science. And if you want to see somebody who's done it right, who will inspire you to get better, I got a friend. We're going to learn about his backstory this week. His name is Todd Jarrett. He's a homeboy. He's from Virginia. In the show notes and even on the website, Black Man with a Gun, I'm going to put a couple of YouTube links in case you've never heard of the guy. But you're going to hear about his life from the beginning. And then the next couple of weeks, I'm going to give you like about a 5 or 10 minute addendum to this one. This is the long one, but for the next 4 weeks, I broke up a really long conversation so that I could share it so you won't get bored, and each piece gets a little better. See, I also know my main man, Michael Woodland, wants to compete, and I'm going to make sure that he and Todd get together so they can share some knowledge and get Mike on his way. My next guest has been winning national championships since about 1991, I believe. Yeah, the dude's amazing. His name is Todd Jarrett, and he's my special guest. And here he is next. You the real deal, man.
No, man, you are the real deal.
You been doing all right?
I've been doing fine. I've been so busy, and my life has been a whirlwind here for the last 30 years. So, the gun industry it's running, man. It's just, absolutely kind of crazy how I made a somewhat of a living doing this over the years.
I know.
So
it's a dream for some people.
Fun. Yeah. Yeah, you could actually call it a dream job in many ways. I mean, I think the most, I think being in the industry and never thought, I mean, I'd never had no inclination in my life to ever be a professional shooter by far. But as that time went on, I thought I could create a path where it could potentially happen for me.
Nice.
And so when I lost my job, so a little brief history. So in 1983, I picked up my first gun. I actually was going to work one morning. I was an air conditioned refrigeration mechanic for a company called American Tobacco Company in Richmond, Virginia. And about 2:30 in the morning, a guy opened up my truck door and stuck a gun in my face. And I was just a kid. I was just 20 years old, and I just jammed the gas and went right through a red light and went to work, and we had a piece of equipment down or something. And I told my buddies that were there, I was like, man, somebody stuck a gun in my face, and I just got scared. And I was just a kid, didn't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the guy hitting me, and I looked at the mirror and I saw the guy fall down to the, I'd hit him. And, when I took off, he didn't expect me to floor it and get out of there.
Oh, okay.
Lucky he didn't take a shot and kill me, But yeah, so the next day, got to talking about it at work, and it's a bunch of guys going like, hey, Todd, you need to come and hang out with us at a local range. We shoot here at this indoor range here in Richmond. I went, yeah, well, maybe I'll come by and hang out with you guys. And so that's where it started from.
Wow.
And so I shot a couple, informal matches with some guys, and one thing led to another. I went and, at the time, action shooting was just getting started,
mm-hmm.
In the country. Cooper was a guy who was putting a lot of that stuff together, and some of those old timers out there. Bill Wilson. I remember Rob Latham was just starting in that period of time.
IDPA back then in IPSC, right?
It was IDPA in the sense where IDPA didn't start until really 15 years ago, mm-hmm. and Bill Wilson started that. So, but the whole history of that. So that's kind of my start, in the in shooting a gun. In a pistol anyway. So I actually been shooting since I was a kid. I killed my first deer when I was 7 years old. My dad got me a single barrel Stevens shotgun 20 gauge, and he goes, okay, son, when you kill your first deer, I'm going like, ha, he's not going to kill a deer for years. So my birthday is in November, and I essentially killed a deer 3 weeks later for my first deer, and I was kind of disappointed I didn't get a semi-auto like my dad. And so I was going like, wow, Dad, really a single barrel? Wow, okay. I want to be like the rest of the guys we hunt with,
Right.
And so I ended up getting a semi-auto for Christmas, basically 3 weeks later. So, but it was, but I've hunted and fished and been outdoorsman and, all through my teenage years and loved it, and never thought I never even shot a handgun until I was, 20 years old.
Wow.
But, so it was kind of, one of those, moments in my life where, okay, maybe I should go get a gun. I work in a bad section of town, and I went down and got a concealed carry permit. And so I went down to the local police station. When I turned 21, I was going like, okay, I'd gotten a pistol, and prior to that, a buddy of mine would take it to range, and I would shoot it, and he'd take it and hold it for me. And then when I turned 21, of course, I went down and got my concealed carry permit in Virginia, and I was like, I got to have it, going to do it. And from that point on, I've been carrying a gun since I was 21 years old. And I'm 55 now, and I never leave home without it.
Yeah.
Never had to, physically had to use it, to defend myself over the years. And 6 million rounds downrange in competition after all these years since 83, since I started shooting. I still carry. I don't consider myself, somebody who's got to have it for every single place I go, but I like to, I carry, and and I got a bunch of guns, and I love guns, and I just, I like working on them, I like shooting them, I like, manufacturing them, and like competing with them.
Yeah.
So for me, it's been kind of an interesting start to my life, and that's where I'm at this point. So
cool, man. And then in 96, you hit your first IPSC world champion, and then you was on a blaze after that with USPSA, the Handgun Nationals.
Yep.
You was doing what gun did you use for the Open?
Well, you see, we stepped back a couple of years, so in the late 80s, so in 1985 or 86, I started hitting the circuit up and down the East Coast. And then I shot my first nationals in 87. And then I was going like, okay, I'm going to try this for a couple of years and see how good I can stack up against the top guys. At the time, and that was Rob Latham and Jerry Barnhart and Brian Enos and Michael Plasko and Chip McCormick. All those guys were, brand name individuals at the time. And so I'm going to give it a shot. So I went out and shot my first nationals, and I ended up winning a stage in the match. And so I got back and I was going like, wow, if I can win a stage and beat everybody in one stage, that means I can probably beat everybody else and win the match. And so in 1991, I won my first U.S. Nationals in 91. And so I went to work for a sponsorship thing for Para Ordnance in 1990. They kind of picked me up and saw me as an up-and-comer. I had been winning a lot of major matches, but never the Nationals to that point. And then in 91, I ended up winning the Nationals that year with the Para Ordnance gun. And it was the first year of the high-capacity guns, the second year of the red dots on top of a gun, which was kind of started the whole red dot craze along the way. And Jerry Barnhart, who had won the first year, 1990, and then went on from there. So 90, 92, 93, 94, I didn't win the Nationals. Guy was in the top three almost every single year, and I just never could pull out another win there. And then in 96, I made the U.S. team to go to Brazil, to shoot my second world championship. My first one was in 93 in Bisley, England, and we just had a blast. It was my first world championship, and it was held every 3 years. And I think I finished sixth the first year I went, and it was all U.S. top six. And I remember Robbie's going like, if you don't get your butt in gear here and we're finishing top six, I mean, we're going to throw you off the plane coming home into the big pond. So I ended up shooting pretty well. And so I ended up at U.S. we're top six, 1 through 6. So it was kind of a cool part. Because at the time, the U.S. we had the best shooters in the world.
Yeah.
We still do. I mean, we still have some best shooters in the world today. And then in 96, I went to Brazil, made the U.S. team, and I won my first world championship there. And then basically about 6 months later, I actually ended up winning the U.S. Nationals again in 97 Open and Limited Division. So the USPSA kind of crowned me the very first Triple Crown winner within USPSA. And so, which was a good title put on top of me. It hadn't been done before. And so that part is so, and so in 96, when I won my world championship that year, I went pro. So that was my first time of, basically going, okay, I got to go to work here. I got to pay bills. And, I got to work hard at it. And I was driven. I was highly motivated, as a competitor. I mean, I could have been playing golf or chess or, it didn't matter what I was doing. I was dedicated to the sport. I mean, I didn't see guns as being bad, and I didn't see, anything that was going to be to the point where it's going to be negative in my life. I never thought, guns would be, where they are today as we, move into this crazy and political environment that we're working in now. So, yeah. So I went to work for, I went to work for Safariland, which was a holster manufacturer, in 1990 also. In 1990, I went to work for Para, kind of as a sponsorship. By that time in 95, 96 era, I was already learning the industry, everything from sales to marketing to new products, how to deal with dealers, how to deal with distributors. And so I always get my feet wet in that area. And so, which was a great learning curve for me. So, but it was kind of like, okay, I was still shooting, still competitive. I wanted to win. And I went on about a 10-year string there from, I would say, probably 91 to about 2001, where I really won a lot of matches. And I was pretty much, you could almost say that, 90% of the time I was winning most of the matches. If not, I was second or third in almost everywhere I went. So, I racked up a lot of stuff along the way. But I learned so much about the gun industry in that period of time, which kind of has made me kind of who I am today. So, everything from machining to understanding different types of metals, how bullets are made, how, projectiles work in guns, and, how to deal with law enforcement, how to deal with military, government agencies, how to go in there and teach those guys how, we have the best product, or, this company is not as good as yours. But they started using me as like the demo guy. And so there was 2 or 3 of us out there. Rob Latham, of course. Rob was with Springfield, and he was, he's a showman himself. And Mike Voigt, who's since passed away. Mike was another one. He was very good at what he was doing. And there was a couple of us out there, Jerry Barnhart, who's no longer shooting, but Jerry was doing a lot of teaching, and he was a staple in the industry at that time, because we were all doing very well, as far as, getting good publicity from USPSA, and then all the other magazines out there, from American Handgunner, Guns and Ammo, American Rifleman, and American, a couple other good magazines out there. So publications were doing a good job of promoting us, because we were working directly in the industry. And so the industry saw the advantage of USPSA, and action shooting was hot at the time. And so guns are selling, holsters are selling, ammo was selling, and that game took off. And so we essentially got to the point where, okay, these guys are valuable to the industry, and see what we can do to now, bring in a new crop of shooters. And at that time, we were the ones kind of dragging those guys along to the guys we know today, Max Michel and Travis Tomasi, Casey Casibio, Chris Tilley. There's Daniel Horner, who's kind of new to the industry, but he's kind of a newcomer coming in. But those are just a few. There's a lot more other guys out there who are extremely talented in the action shooting world. So, pretty interesting, fun.
For a person who's just starting today, how's it different from when you started?
Wow. The game is dramatically different. Action shooting today, when I started shooting my first match in 83, 84 period, essentially it's more compact. The stages are, the accuracy has come and gone over the years. I mean, there was nothing for us as shooting a box stock hardball 45 Colt, at 65 yards away. So today, if you do a 65-yard shot up, somebody would go like, wow, I came to the wrong match. Maybe I thought this was a 3-gun match, shooting rifle. So typically a long shot today in USPSA is about 30 yards, and you're only going to see a couple of those. So the game, as things go, I mean, trends need to change. I get it. I understand. I've been around, I'm a senior guy. I know how, things have kind of gone, in a different direction. So it became accuracy, driven and through the 80s and through the middle 90s. And then as we got towards the 2000s, the game became more open targets, faster shooting, faster splits. And it was just, everything was just you might shoot 36 rounds and do the whole stage in 15, 18 seconds. And so the trend now is kind of turning back, kind of going back that direction where a little bit more accuracy is becoming more prevalent in the shooting sports, in the action shooting sports, which is a good thing, because the guns are more accurate, they're more reliable today, and we're just pushing guys out to the point where, okay, you can shoot, targets 8, 9, 10, 12 yards away really fast, but now can you do that at 18, 20, 25, potentially out to 30 yards away? And so I step back and I look at that, and I've seen what Bill Wilson saw, envisioned, and Cooper envisioned in the early, late 70s, early 80s in the game. So on sights, defensive type of shooting, concealed carry, or deep concealment, or some type of cover was something that kind of got lost in that period of time. And I can understand why Bill is going like, hey, there's a need for bringing IDPA out. And I was fine with those guys doing that. I thought that was just great for the industry, being able to sell more product, being able to develop more, areas of teaching for law enforcement, military, in which we had gotten away from that because the holsters had gotten a lot trickier, and they were crazy fast, and it's kind of like, okay, what happened to the deep concealment and the old leather slap days that we had and we started with, because I started out with leather holsters, using a Yankee holster at the time. Mm-hmm. And so I think it was a great place, and it's a great time for IDPA to come into the game. And so, and I shot it for a long time. I shot it for 15 years. And so about 7 years ago, I decided that I had been doing the game long enough, and I got burnt out. I mean, I got burnt out from USPSA. I got burnt out from Steel Challenge. I got burnt out from IDPA. And I was successful in all of them, and I had won world championships in those two divisions, and have won, national events in IDPA. But I just got tired of it, and I woke up one morning and went to the range and I did a drill, and I was going like, you know what? I'm done. I mean, I know what my first shot is going to be at every single distance out to 50 yards away. I know what my reload is going to be. I know what my splits are going to be. I know what my acquisition is going to be. I know how to move and shoot. And I just got burned out from it. And I said, I'm going to quit. And so I'm just going to find a new direction. And a buddy of mine called me up. And he goes, hey, I'm going to shoot a 3-gun match this weekend. You want to go with me? I was like, nah, I don't know. Maybe I'll go watch. And so I went and watched. And, of course, I can't watch. I have to have a gun with me. So I went and I shot. And, I shot this match, Ken. And I was going like, and I just got re-energized in a different discipline. So 3-gun had taken off, I'd say about early 2000s. I had shot it back in the 80s, some, and then early 90s, and Jerry Michalik was shooting it, and then he was actually the man, at the time, and Jerry's a man with anything with a gun. And so one thing led to another. I shot it, I shot a couple nationals in the 90s and a couple, and then, in the 2000s. And I mean, I finished in it. I think I was third one year and, top 5 a couple other times. But I didn't put any effort into it. I just shot it because it was an industry thing and I needed to be there for something. But then now I took it seriously, and we were in the transition mode and 3-gun, where the development of shotguns really were making a huge change in that period of time, 7 or 8 years ago. And I was kind of involved in that. So, which was intrigued me because I'm a gun guy and I love guns. So it's kind of like, let me see what I can do to help, in development of everything from shotgun shell loads to making things faster and more accurate. And then the rifle was the same way. The rifle we took the AR-15 and we took a gun that was really what the government would call a 3-minute angle gun, or 6-minute gun at 300 yards away. if you could hit a man in the body at 300 yards away, you were good to go. So at that time, man, I'm telling you, those were the development of new rounds came out, powder came out, better dies for loading with from RCBS. And then there was, the target started getting further away. So we went from 3 to 4 to 5 to 6. A couple of shots were we were shooting out to 700. So you had to have a load development now because factory ammo wasn't getting it. And we found out that barrels, they really won't worth a damn. And so JP started, John Paul started working on, making better chambers, better barrels. And then Proof Research came out at the time. They were working on new barrels. There were just several companies that were just, it seemed like every year we're going like, hey, we know we're not 2 minutes of angle, we're a minute of angle. And it was kind of like, can we get it to a minute and a half? Can we get it to half a minute of angle? And so Sierra came out with some new bullets, 77 grain tip bullet that he came out with, and I started working on it. And I called JP up, and he had sent me a gun. He goes, okay, this is one of my greatest and latest inventions. Tell me what you're getting out of it. So I called him up one day, and I said, hey, John, I'm getting 1-inch groups at 300 yards out of your gun with 77 grain bullets. And he goes, it's impossible. He goes, my barrels are not set up for that. He goes, they won't shoot that. I went, well, dude, I'm sending you pictures right now. So I'm sending pictures, and I went through all this load development trying to find the right overall length, the right neck tension, all this stuff that we could make a gas gun extremely accurate out to 600. And so, it started getting better and better in a period of time. It was kind of like AMU guys and Fort Benning were working on some stuff. We were chatting back and forth. Some other top 3-gun guys were working together. And it was pretty amazing what we came up with, 6-7 years ago. And we just got better and better. And then we started working on positioning. Scope started getting better. Scope mount started even getting to the point where we needed, a more heavier duty scope mount. And then Mark LaRue came out with his about that, earlier period of time. It was going like, okay, these things are the cat's ass right here. And we really, we figured out how to make these things, then the bolts, started getting lighter and using different finishes on them. Extractors started getting better. We just went, I would say from when Earthstone made the first AR-15 in the 50s, when he developed it, the military went to it. It didn't go through any major changes through the 60s, 70s, or 80s. It was pretty much the same gun. And by the 90s, there was a couple of things done. The M4 came out, which, we chopped some barrels, and guys started making compensators. But the development and the technology that went into the AR-15 from the early 2000s, which started, after 9/11,
right?
Because I actually worked for Blackwater training facility or training center for about 8 years. Late 90s when it came on board through about 2007 there, and we were pushing guys out to 400, 500, 600 yards with a 5.56, and we were developing programs, and I was heavily involved in that type of training. And so you have people show up and go like, okay, we're going to get targets out to 600 in the class, and they just start laughing at you. It's going like, no, here's ammo. Guess what? We can get you to have hits on targets. And so we took basically a 5.56 gun that was, the gun started getting better, and machining started getting so much better in the last 15 years. Today it's better than it's ever been.
Yeah.
We're doing tolerances now that are, you can put them on a machine and you get, 1/10 of an inch with anything you want now. If you want something, lapping a 1911 together, you can fit them up, and a guy don't have to even, do any lapping on it anymore. Hardly. Basically, this stuff has gotten machining has gotten so great on it. So, and then I get off the subject of 3-gun, but I do want to cover that because
No, man, that's good stuff. Nobody knows that.
Yeah. But between the rifle and the shotgun, in the handgun, which already had the handgun skills coming into 3-gun, which was my favor at the time, Ken. And it took me a couple of years to learn the games, like any type of shooting sport or any type of transition from golf to putt-putt. It's going to be a transition period. And so essentially after that, I transitioned to that. And it took me a couple of years to learn the game, learn all the nuances, and then travel around the country. And then probably about 3 years, I started getting pretty good at it, and I started winning at it. And then I'd have to say, I've been in the top 3 of almost every major 3-gun matches in the country. So I'm kind of pretty good at that game now. So, and kind of enjoy it. So I love it. It's a lot of fun. So, yeah. So now, about 3 years ago, probably for your listeners out there, if you want to have fun, so the old guy who could never shoot a handgun, who hated to shoot a shotgun, who don't give a crap about an AR 223 because they're noisy and they're expensive to shoot, is 9mm carbine, which is PCC. That is absolutely, in the action shooting world, that's the fastest growing segment of that. I would say, then I haven't seen anything take off this quick. And really since, the invention of the red dots on the gun, which makes people more accurate. And, you look at the target, put the red dot on, it's like a laser, and pull the trigger. So now you got a shoulder fired 9mm that doesn't make any noise, cheap to shoot. There are, 10 different manufacturers or styles of the 9mm carbine that have been successful. SIG came out one with the MPX, and the MPX and 9mm, it's badass. I mean, it's a Cadillac of 9mm carbines, and I'm a huge MP5 fan. I got to work with them a lot over the years, and love it, and love that gun. But that MPX from SIG is pretty unbelievable.
How are people using that one?
In USPSA and IDPA and Steel Challenge. So all 3 of those, different disciplines have allowed that gun to be used in that type of competition. So now we got guys who are dragging back to the range here, which we hadn't seen in years, who go like, wow, I can shoot a shoulder fired 9mm and go out here and have fun and actually hit something, because I'm not steady enough with a handgun, back in the day to do it, or because it was too hard. And now you can, you're basically taking a shoulder fired 9mm and being able to hit it. I mean, CZ's making a really cool gun. There are a bunch of AR versions out there. A company called CMMG is making a really cool one. JP Enterprise is making the GMR 15, which is really, yeah, you're going to pay a few dollars for it, but I got about 80,000 rounds in mine, and I can honestly say that it's been 100% flawless. I've never had a problem with it. I mean, never. Biggest problems they have with the 9mm carbines are the blowback guns. And for your listeners out there, if you're looking to go with a 9mm carbine, whether it be an AR type platform or a CZ or MPX from SIG, those particular guns are very sensitive to triggers, and they don't last as long because of the blowback system that they got. Some last longer than others, but there are several companies out there that are making aftermarket triggers that go in them. Hyperfire makes one, Timony makes one, Geisley makes one. All these companies are making them. They're not bulletproof yet. I mean, you still got to do some maintenance on them. But that is probably the only downfall, because being a blowback system, essentially. Now, a little bit different on the MPX, because there's a roller lock, kind of like an AR type bolt and carrier system. CMMG is making one where they're doing a delay on it. It looks very similar to an AR system, in which I have one. So I got I got them all. So I like to be able to have them and tell my students and inform the public what's good, what's bad, and what's not. And so it's kind of like you kind of figure out what you want in price range. So you can build one for $900, or you can get one for $3,000. So it's they're kind of all over the place price point wise, but they're super accurate. 9mm ammo is the cheapest it's been now, and God Almighty, I mean, I just can't remember when ammo was just cheap. Maybe going back to the '80s, and they really ought to stack up now because Trump's going to be in office for another 2 years, and we got essentially who knows what's going to happen in the near future. I mean, we're in a very difficult situation here politically, Ken, in the future of firearms and possession of those and people who have them. And I'm very concerned about the next generation and the next generation of kids that are coming along who want to be able to follow my footsteps or someone else's footsteps in the competition world. And look at California and New York and New Jersey and the whole New England area. I mean, if you follow that world, God, look what happened to Vermont in just the last couple of years. They've gone to having no gun laws to having some of the strictest gun laws in the country, and it's being quietly done, and nobody knows about it. But you do, right? Next week, Todd's going to continue talking about reloading and ammo and equipment purchases and a company called STI. They make a John Wick pistol that you just got to see. I hope you can stick around because we ain't done yet. One of the things I want to do every week is to give you a question to have you respond. I love to find out some feedback, see what your experience levels are, share some information with the listeners of the Black Man with a Gun Show podcast, the cool people in the gun community. Want to know what your thoughts are on this week on body armor. Question of the week. You may not have known it, but I have been a fan of body armor forever. I've always drawn it and painted it into the cartoons and the animation that I was doing. I always thought about how cool it was to be in a trench coat that was decked out in bulletproof clothing that made you like a superhero. We all have the right to protect ourselves and our families. And as such, we have the legal right to acquire and wear body armor for personal and professional protection. If you have seen me speak out in public in the past, I was probably wearing body armor. Yeah, you just thought I had a barrel chest. Well, I do. But it's usually covered also, just in case somebody got crazy. Did you know that convicted felons don't have the right to own body armor anymore? And that most of the U.S. has a federal ban on the possession of body armor by convicted felons. It's an 18 U.S.C. code 9931, I believe. Felons can only purchase bulletproof vests if their employer requires it, and they get written permission to do so. Sounds like the black codes almost. Still, it's the responsibility of the felon to refrain from buying body armor. Only then can they be prosecuted if they make an illegal purchase. Usually when you go to a gun show, there is body armor for sale somewhere in there. And usually you just resign it to law enforcement and security types. But I'm saying, have you considered body armor for yourself? Think about all the times you've gone to the range and guns were going off all over the place. But there was no thought to you that body armor couldn't make your day a little safer? More than 10 years ago, I found a company down in Colombia, South America, that was making high-priced, high-quality fashion, like my cartoons, like my dreams, like my superheroes that I used to draw. Armani suits, Hugo Boss suits, fancy overcoats, sports coats, leather jackets that were armor-plated. Yeah, and they were selling them to only those who could afford it, actually. But they looked like real good clothes. Presidents wear these things. Yeah, heads of states. Some celebrities. Well, after a decade of stalking this guy and talking to him, I finally got a chance to get a sample, a brand new invention of his. It's kind of a
It's like a tank top vest. It's a level 3A. It's the same level of protection that I wear daily now. And it looks better. It fits better. It's stylish. And I'm going to put it through the test this weekend as we do our 100-degree temperature at the cookout and see how it does. I'm not going to get shot with it. I'm just talking about for, being comfortable and being able to move and, being mobile in it and looking good too. You got to look good with your stuff. You've probably already seen this if you've checked out my new Instagram page, Papa Cap, and that's PAPPACAPP. Papa Cap, my new Instagram page. This thing from Miguel Caballero, MC Armor. And you can check it out too, mc-armor.com. It's a ballistic resistant tank top. And I'll be doing a whole lot more talking about it and video probably after this weekend. You're a gun owner. You're a shooter. Why are you not an owner of a bullet resistant vest? For when you compete, for when you are in the movie theater, or you're in a bad neighborhood, if you are carrying concealed. Why hasn't the bullet resistant clothing or vest or anything ever popped into your mind before? Think about if you had like a family. You and your daughter were going out, and each one of you guys had something that if a crazy popped up could buy you a few more minutes. Think about it for a minute. Never thought of it before? Well, I would love to hear your thoughts on owning bullet resistant clothing. Hit me back at Papa Cap on Instagram. Remember, that's PAPPACAPP. Papa, 2 P's. Cap, 2 P's. You not on the Instagram? Oh, well, email me, blackmailthegun@gmail.com, and let me know what you think. In case you're wondering why I even got into this stuff, is that because for decades, for almost all of my life, I've been in protection, security, or police work. I've been in and lived around the world where I wanted to get a second chance if I got shot first. I've been living that concealed carry life for a long time. And see, when a handgun bullet strikes body armor, it's caught in a web of very strong fiber. These fibers absorb and disperse the impact energy that is transmitted to the vest from the bullet, causing the bullet to deform, you hope, or mushroom. Now, additional energy is absorbed by each successive layer of material in the vest until such time as the bullet actually stops. Because the fibers work together, both in the individual layer and with other layers of material in the vest, a large area of the body armor becomes involved in preventing that bullet from penetrating. This also helps in dissipating the forces which cause non-penetrating injuries, which is commonly referred to as blunt trauma, to internal organs. You see, I like my guts, and I want to keep them. Right now, modern generation of stuff, concealable vests provide protection that didn't even exist before. They can defeat most common low and medium energy handgun rounds. Vests designed to defeat rifle fire, like the plates that people like to wear on Instagram and Facebook and at the range they got from when they were in the military overseas. That's really either semi-rigid or rigid construction. And that's not what I'm talking about. That stuff typically incorporated hard material like ceramics or metals. And because of its weight and its bulkiness, it was impractical for everyday use. And it's reserved for tactical situations, and higher threat. And if I know I'm going into a tactical situation, I might not want to go on foot. You know what I'm saying? But these days, body armor might be a thing for your wife, for your kids. Now we're talking backpacks and coats and jackets and windbreakers and ballistic resistant tank tops. Again, let me know what you think. I would love to hear it because I got a lot of stuff to talk about with vests. And I'm going to share some of my knowledge with you and see where you're at with this whole thing. Hit me back up at blackmailthegun@gmail.com or on the Instagram page for Papa Cap. And that was our question of the week. Where are you on bullet resistant vests? Have you ever thought about getting one? Hey, this is your favorite uncle, Papa Cap. I got a firearms training tip for you this week. This week, I'm going to talk about something that's just so obvious, but very, very important. The grip. you know how important it is to control your firearm. The correct grip, though, is one element that enhances the shooter's probability of hitting the target. For most shooters, believe it or not, they have to learn how to grip the firearm. It doesn't come naturally. And with respect to the shooting hand, did you know that only the middle and ring fingers significantly control the weapon? Now, this is in relation to handguns, of course. Any deficiencies in the shooting hand must be compensated in proper placement of the support hand. The shooting hand should be as high on the weapon as the design will allow, in order to absorb the recoil in a straight line backward. This shooting hand placement reduces muzzle flip, providing faster recovery from recoil. From the shooting hand grip, proper finger placement on the trigger is also important. Enough finger must be on the trigger to control trigger movement. The shooting hand placement then becomes secondary. The support hand should complement the shooting hand grip. Let's talk about that support hand for a minute. It must take up the deficiencies of the shooting hand grip. After the shooting hand is in place, those areas of the grip that are exposed are not being controlled. The support hand comes in and controls these exposed areas, thereby locking down the shooting hand. All four of the support hand's fingers grip the shooting hand around the front, then the support hand palm clamps to the backstrap, molding it with the shooting palm. The support hand thumb locks down the shooting hand thumb. Too many shooters have support hand over the back of the shooting hand, and with semi-automatic pistols, this can result in a painful and memorable experience. With any handgun, a thumb over the grip opens up the support hand palm contact, reducing the effectiveness of the support hand. And for these reasons, the best place for the support hand is locking down that thumb on the shooting hand. Now, with the exception of pressure, the complete grip is now formed. All exposed areas are wrapped and under control. You can shoot with one hand. But few people have a natural grip sufficient enough to provide the best control of their recoil. This is especially true in rapid shooting and recovery. In order to define what is sufficient or firm enough, the term firm must be defined. It should be to the point that when you hold the weapon tight enough with both hands, the sights tremble, but you want to ease off of that grip enough to eliminate that trembling, of course. It doesn't have to be that tight. But with that explanation and not being able to see me right now, you have to find, by feel and sight, the grip pressure that works best for your physical strength. Proper grip and firm pressure is critical to ensure proper functioning of a semi-automatic. And this is especially true in guns made to high specifications. And like the Glock, without a firm grip on the frame to include the wrist, the firearm will jam repeatedly. Firm grip is beneficial in reducing the disturbance of the sights that may be caused by bad trigger control. Where a fast and smooth trigger pull is not followed by anticipation, a firm grip can keep the sights in alignment well enough to provide defensive, acceptable accuracy at close or moderate distances. I love doing this thing on audio so that when I actually do a YouTube video, I can play back the audio and show you. Hope you liked that. For more information about Papa Cap, go to blackmanwithagun.com. Look for training. Talk to you all next week. Well, all right. That's it for this week. I want to thank you so much for being a part of my life, being a friend that I want to share with you all that I have. Remember that we got a fundraiser for this fall. I'm trying to raise money so I can buy some new gear. Got to stay fresh. Join our awesome Show Enough supporters at patreon.com/blackmanwithagun. Also, remember, I have a new IG account. It's called Papa Cap. Join it. Its training begins this fall. That's PAPPACAPP on Instagram if you're there. And if you're out doing something and you can't write that stuff down, just take a look at the show notes when you get back home. There'll be links to everything. However you heard this, there's some show notes somewhere. And the links will be right there and all the extra stuff about patreon.com, about the projects, about training, about Papa Cap on IG, all of that. All right? Have you been following the politics here in D.C.? Man, it is nuts right now. I want to move so bad, but I'm stuck. Now, here's something for you. How many politicians does it take to change a light bulb? You know the answer? It depends on how many it took for the previous administration to do so. That's the kind of foolishness we deal with right now. And until next week, shalom, baby.
Until next time, friends.
To keep in touch with Ken and his cause, head over to blackmanwithagun.com.
Blanchard.media.